So we're going to start out by getting the blank mounted to the lathe. I'm going to be using these step centers from Robert Sorby. Nice thing about these step centers is that they have a ring of really sharp teeth, which keep from splitting the wood in the case of doing spindle turning. However, in this application, what I particularly like about it is the spring-loaded point in the center, which allows the material to be repositioned as needed. As you can see, this is not a round piece, so balancing it out can be a challenge, and being able to reposition them really helps. Now here you can see me just taking off a little bit of the bark just to give the step center something a little bit more substantial to bite into, as biting into the bark, it wouldn't be able to get a good bite and it would just simply spin. So taking the opportunity to pull a little bit of that bark off of there. So go ahead and set your tool rest in place, and you want to spin it by hand a few times to make sure that you're not making contact with the rest, and away we go. So I'm using a very large gouge here and a pull cut, and alternating between a pull cut and a push cut, and basically at this point I'm just bringing the blank into round, getting some of the basic shaping done. So here you see me flattening the bottom, getting ready to cut the recess that I'm going to use to mount the piece to the chuck. You'll also notice throughout this video that I'm going to be doing a lot of stopping, because when you're doing a live edge bowl, it's difficult to be able to predict exactly where your edges, where the rim of the bowl is gonna land and how it's going to be shaped. So it's a good idea to stop periodically and make sure that things are going the way you like them to. There's also a couple of cracks in this blank here from the drying process, and I'm trying to make sure that I get rid of some of those as well. When I was doing the roughing part, I wasn't too concerned about the top edge where the bark is, because I'm trying to keep that on this piece. But as you get closer to your final shape, you want to make sure that you cut primarily from the rim to the base of the bowl. And the reason why you want to do that is because if you cut in the other direction, you could very easily lever off the bark as you're cutting. You may have noticed that I'm using the bowl gouge in a slightly different manner. Basically what I do is close that flute up and cut off the wings, which is actually a shear scraping cut with the bowl gouge. I typically follow that up with a bowl scraper, which typically just has a curve. Now I'm just cutting away material so that I can make the tenon that I'm going to use to mount the bowl to the chuck. I have this tool here that cuts the dovetail feature in for me. It's basically a scraper ground at about 10 degrees. And I do a little bit of sanding before I flip the bowl around. Here I'm using my 70mm bowl jaws, which in my personal opinion is one of my favorites. I think 50mm, 70mm, 100mm are the ones I use the most. Now that I have this piece mounted in the chuck, I can go ahead and get on with the process of hollowing the bowl out. Again, it's a process where you want to be stopping and checking your work often. You want to make sure that things are going the way you intend them to. When you get to this point and you're starting to shape the outside of the bowl, what you want to do is, before you remove too much of the material in the bottom of the bowl, you want to make sure that you get your wing cuts right. You want to make the last cut before you start to work on the bottom work on hollowing out the bottom of the bowl should be your finished cut. Well, after you remove some of the bulk of the material in the bottom of the bowl, the wings are going to start to vibrate through centrifugal force when you try to cut it. So you want to make sure that you get that right. Now, because of that fact, I try to do a lot of blending. So I do a really light cut down the wall, down to about 2/3 of the way down the bowl. And then I do a cut from the center out and try to blend the two of them together in the corner. Now I'm working with my Robert Sorby inboard scraper. This is an extra heavy duty tool. It's a really thick bar which reduces potential for vibration and chattering. It does a really nice job of cleaning out the bottom of your bowls. Now that I have the bowl hollowed out, I need to turn it around and work on the very bottom, including the foot. Since it's a natural edge bowl and doesn't have a consistent rim, mounting it in the reverse can be kind of challenging. So what I did here is I took a small piece of poplar and basically made it round and turned a little hollow on the end of it, basically so that my support is going to be a ring instead of a flat. So if the bottom of my bowl isn't entirely flat, which bowls seldom are, having that ring will allow my jam chuck to contact the bottom of the bowl. The reason why I switched live centers is because the second one has a cup center which provides a larger surface area for contact and also doesn't have a tendency to dig in with the point quite as much as the smaller one. Although I will have to switch back because the smaller point allows me to work more of the foot of the bowl, leaving a smaller nub to be dealt with off the lathe. So here you can see me decorating the foot. A detail spindle gouge is my typical weapon of choice. Like I said, I'm going to be using the smaller point to go ahead and mount the bowl once I've gotten rid of the bulk of the material so that I can get down a little bit closer with the tools. So you go ahead and sand it at this point, get as much of that done as you can on the lathe where it's nice and easy. Now that it's off the lathe, I want to protect that natural edge, so put a little block underneath the bowl so that it would raise it up so that as I'm pressing down with the chisel, it won't spoil my live edge there. I'm also using this chisel here. Now, before the safety police get after me, if you watch carefully, I'm actually levering against my thumb and not pressing towards my other finger, so my hands are quite safe. Once I have that taken out, I go back to my power sander and smooth off the bottom a little bit, and that about does it. Onto some finishing. I'm taking the bowl over to the buffer and I'm going to use the Triple E wheel and the white diamond wheel to really polish the surface. And then after that, I'll be using some spray lacquer to finish the bowl off. And then I'll have some pictures at the end of the video showing the final product. So I'd like to take this time now to thank you for watching my video and joining me in the shop. I hope that you found this entertaining, possibly even educational. If you like what you see, please subscribe and click the notification bell so that you're notified when new content comes out. You'll also find Amazon affiliate links in the description below for some of the products I've used in this video. Using those links really help us out, and they don't cost you anything extra, so it's a really easy way to help support what we do here. I hope that this video encourages you to get out in your shop and try this if you haven't tried it before. And remember, dread not and make something. Peace.